Hello, everyone, and welcome to my very first episode. This is Seti Matua, and first shout out to my nephews, Venu and Bobby Masina, the Moon Gang. Thank you for allowing me to use your music on the channel, and appreciate your love and support, and wish you the best in your careers. Where do I start? Um, uh, I am in a very odd position. I guess this is awkward for me because these things are foreign. I don't spend a lot of time talking to myself or to a camera. So please bear with me. I'm going to try and get through this as fast as I can. I promised my family that I would start this a month ago, and here we are um, in February and still haven't gotten it done. So want to make sure that I'm doing this justice. And well, I guess we can start there. Why am I doing it? I mentioned one of the reasons. My family has asked me to share some of the things that are in my mind and my heart. I'm a very random person. So doing this is maybe a way for me to organize, collect my thoughts, and share them with the world. But perhaps this could be more like a uh, to sound cliche-ish right off the bat, a window into my soul. Maybe this will be therapeutic for me as well. Um, think of it kind of like a mirror, I guess. I looking back at myself to see my imperfections, my flaws, share those with you, the listener, but mostly with my family so that they can see that, well, they already know I'm not perfect, but I'm really trying. And I'm trying to do justice um, for them by bearing my soul and leaving a piece of me online so they can reference back to it as often as they would like. So that's part of the reason why I'm doing this. Another reason is I'm, to be frank, bored. I was recently released as a bishop in a young single adult ward in Provo. Um, for those of you who are not members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints listening in, a bishop is basically a shepherd in a congregation, and this congregation consisted of young people from the ages of 18 to 30, and before I was released, that age was extended to 35. So in the last 4 years, first as a high counselor, where I served on a stake high council. Again, this is a level above a ward administrative role. And then I worked or I was called as a bishop, not worked, because it wasn't work. It was absolutely fun. I led a congregation of about, well, the number fluctuated between 180 to during the summer to 230 in our fall, winter, and spring months. So during that time, I was very busy from Sunday to Sunday. I enjoyed working with these wonderful people. And about mid-January, I was released, and now I'm completely bored. So my family also asked me to do this because they didn't want me to be bored and bugging them and doing things, doing the awkward and odd things that I do. So they asked me to start this channel, primarily, as I mentioned, to share experiences from my life, but also to share with the world my testimony of the gospel of Jesus Christ. So here I am. And this will be strange for me initially. I don't know if it will stop being strange, but maybe I'll get better at this. I guess another reason I want to do this is to share my own unique experiences as a father, as a brother, as a son of Polynesian ancestry. I tend to see things from the lens of a Samoan, who was raised by Samoan parents, and in recent years exposed to other Polynesian cultures, I guess throughout my life, but more specifically in the last couple of years to congregations that included Tongans, Samoans, Hawaiians, Fijians, and that exposure has helped me to understand and see my people in a different light. I hope seeing things from a Polynesian lens will help others understand not just the culture. And I'm not the cultural police for my people, but at least from my perspective, understand why I think the way I do because of my upbringing as a Samoan male. And then I guess the last thing, since this is kind of a one of those things where people can comment on the things that I share, I'd like to learn from you as well. Maybe the things I say here are totally out of whack with what everybody else in the world thinks. And obviously, because I'm based in the United States, there may be people hearing from other parts of the world who have been raised in a different way, culture, society, and have some feedback on why I say and do the things that I do and say. So I'd really love to hear your comments as well. Any feedback would be welcome, even if it's negative, but I'm trying my best to be positive. I'm not a negative person. I'm not a positive person by nature. I'm pretty pessimistic. So I'd love to hear some feedback to help me be more positive. So keep me in check if you start to hear me saying negative things, because that's what I really want to avoid is being negative. And I may have on occasion uh, the tendency to slip up and say negative things, but I hope you'll keep me in check on that. All right, a little bit more about me. I was born here in the United States, raised primarily in the state of Utah, but born in California and spent a lot of summers in California with my grandparents, my aunt and uncle, and family members there. But my parents moved us here to Utah when I was 3, and then moved us to Samoa for, I was there in total about 7 years. Um, but I ended up, well, mom and dad ended up moving us to Samoa when I was 13. And I ended up going to high school, graduating high school, and eventually serving a full-time mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Shortly after my mission, I returned here to the United States and have been here in Utah ever since, with a brief stint in California. Some of the things that I'd like to start with, and the format is pretty open. I will touch on topics that I love. Um, More important, I think the primary one is um, my spirituality and where I'd like to go with that from this point forward, how I've grown in my spirituality over the years, and whatever lessons I can impart to you, the listener, based on that spirituality and experience. I'll also pepper in some things about my family, sparing you, of course, the details and the private details, especially of my life. But I may reference my beautiful wife, Jen, and my 5 sons, who are now all adults, 3 of them married, um, 2 of them hopefully getting closer to marriage. And I have 5 beautiful granddaughters, the newest one born just a few weeks ago. So I may reference some experiences that I had with them, especially because these messages are primarily for them. Um, and maybe even shout out some friends and colleagues, mentors that have really had some impact on my life, good and bad. So um, I wanted to start out just by sharing with you some things that happened this past week. And this may be the the format initially of, well, that I'll use on the channel is talking about some experiences that I've had just recently that have resonated with me. And the first one is sitting in sacrament meeting on Sunday, this past Sunday. First of all, um, because we're no longer in the YSA ward, we had to really come to a decision, Jen and I, on which ward we were going to attend. And there's a purpose for me sharing this story here. About a month before, and we've been thinking about this for a while, but about a month before we were to be released, we had received our release date, and we're tracking towards that date. And we sat down, we prayed, we went to the temple and made it a matter of prayer and discussion with the Lord. And the reason why is we attend we are members of a Polynesian stake in Utah County. And because these wards within the stake are split up geographically, there happens to be a Samoan and a Tongan ward within our boundaries. And before we moved to the YSA ward, or were called to the YSA ward, we had been going to a Tongan ward for about 10 years, and then felt the need to go to a Samoan ward for a time, and then COVID hit. And during COVID, of course, many of you know, we had church at home before going back. And when we went back, we went to our Samoan ward. Well, we still had really close connections, and still do to this day, to our Tongan ward. And and the Tongan ward is just in our backyard, basically. So we needed to pray, and we needed to ask God to give us some guidance on where we needed to go and where he wanted us to serve. So we visited another ward, and then had the plan to visit the Samoan ward first, and then we would visit the Tongan ward after that, and then we would pray again and fast and make a decision. Well, we went to the Samoan ward, and the moment we walked in there, I don't know, and Jen can share with you her experience. I think she was very hesitant the whole time that we were going through this process about the Samoan ward. When we walked in, we sat down, and the thing that resonated with us immediately was, and we arrived early for a reason, and we sat down and noticed that at that early hour, our church starts at 8:30. At that early hour, the Aaronic priesthood had already prepared the sacrament and were sitting quietly in the benches, in their pews. And there were about a dozen of them there. And that really touched me. I'd never experienced that before, even in my young life. And then as the meeting progressed, there was a beautiful sister and her two sons who spoke. And every single one of those testimonies and talks just pierced my heart. And they spoke on conversion. And this beautiful sister and her sons talked about the death of her husband just a few years ago, and how that experience, as challenging as it was, helped them build their testimonies even stronger and fully converted them to the gospel of Jesus Christ. Then I went to priesthood meeting, and there was probably about 6 of us in priesthood meeting. And I thought, man, this is a really small ward. And I had already received my answer by that time, but I felt so at peace. And I felt the Spirit so strongly as this brother led our discussion. And I don't even recall what the subject was from that Sunday. It was 2 weeks ago. But I do remember feeling a kinship with these brethren and a desire to help other brethren come to church to hear the messages and to be taught by the Spirit. Because the people who were there that Sunday, and I saw them again last week, the people who were there to serve and to love and support and minister to each other. So we made the decision that we would attend the Samoan ward, and we came back, and our Tongan ward was already texting us, asking us if we would speak in Sunday next week, by the way. And they had callings lined up, and we responded. We actually made an effort to go to the chapel to talk to the bishop, but they were in meetings. So we came home and sent a message in reply stating that we felt strongly that we needed to be in the Samoan ward, which is where we are now. And I bring all of that up because of the power of prayer and fasting and holding fast to the covenants that we make with Heavenly Father, because the covenants I have realized and recognized in my life 50 plus years later. They're what bind us to God, and our answers will come through the scriptures, but also through the work that we do to receive the answers to our prayers. And I believe wholeheartedly and can share many experiences within the last 10 years of how true that is. And then fast forward now, or I guess backtrack now to this past Sunday, fast and testimony meeting. A beautiful baby was blessed, and several family members were in attendance for this young baby who was blessed. And the grandfather of that baby happens to be my former high school principal, Vaitu Kayo. Shout out to Vaitu Kayo and the Kayo clan. They were also our neighbors when we first arrived in Samoa way back when. I have a deep love and respect for this man. And he is definitely one of those people that I look to through the years. As stern as he was also very loving. And I knew that he was stern because he had a job to do. But you could always sense and feel the love that he had for his students. Anyway, Brother Kayo got up and bore a beautiful testimony. And he reminded us of this scripture found in Matthew 22, verses 36 through 40, which is the great commandment in the law. Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. Brother Kayo followed that up with a powerful testimony of being neighborly and ministering to each other. And then that carried over into our Come Follow Me lesson in the second hour, where this wonderful couple who led the discussion, Come Follow Me discussion in second hour, the sister, and I apologize, I can't recall her name. I know the husband's name is Doug, really good guy. The sister shared an experience that she had, I believe, with either another lesson that she was in, or maybe it was even on her mission, where she was taught that when we put man before God, then we are swapping those two commandments. And there's an imbalance there because we should love God first and then our neighbor second. We cannot love our neighbor unless we love God. But the thought that came to me as they were teaching this lesson, and I got stuck on this, I tend to get stuck on these principles. But the thing that stuck to me in my mind is I had this flashback in my life of those moments when I was unkind or harsh to other people. There was a period in my life where I was like, my siblings and my wife will probably tell you that was your entire life. But there was a period in my life that I immediately went back to and realized in those moments when I was being harsh and angry and being unfair to people were the moments when I knew I wasn't in a good place myself. So in my mind, understanding what that sister had mentioned, that you're swapping those two commandments and putting man before God, I actually put myself before all the others in a very selfish way. And I realized now, and was reminded of this by this wonderful sister, that in those moments when I was not in a good place and I was feeling, I essentially hated myself. Those were the moments when I wanted to hate and discredit um, and step on people because of the way that I was feeling inside. So um, it's important to love God. And I think that's what was missing in my life in those times when I was hating myself. I could have solved a lot of problems and a lot of heartache if I, number one, loved God, number two, served his children, and number three, I would receive the blessings that God has in store for us when we love him and his children first. That doesn't mean that we don't love ourselves. But I found in my own life personally that when I do those things in the right order, then I love myself so much more. So my question to you, the listener, is, do you love God? Do you trust that that he loves you and that he has your best interests in mind? And when you're feeling low, then for us to show our love, the easiest way to show our love, in my mind, is to love his children. And if we remove the focus from ourselves for a moment and put that focus on the people we minister to, the people we love, um, the people who don't love us, then God will bless us with comfort, peace, and the blessings that we seek. I know that for a fact. So, hey, hit me up in the comments and let me know what your thoughts are about that. Also, this past weekend, I had an opportunity to reconnect with a wonderful friend who I lost touch with years and years ago um, while I was living in Hawaii and doing a bad job of going to school, a university. Um, this this brother, shout out to my man Te Masaniai and his beautiful wife Pauline. But Te, some of you may know him as T. Te and his brother Billy Masaniai were two of my best friends in Hawaii. And they happened to come into my life at a point in time where I needed some really good friends. I'm not going to lie to you, we got into some trouble. But in the midst of all that, I needed some good friends. And Heavenly Father, I believe, put these two brothers in my life. I had many friends at that time, but these two brothers took me in, treated me with kindness, treated me as if I was their brother. And I needed that more than anything at that moment in time. Thomas Aquinas says the following: there is nothing more to be prized than true friendship. And I look back on my life or through my life and think of all the wonderful friends that I've had, some of them who are still my very best friends to this day. In fact, I was texting with several of them, having a good laugh about random things. And I consider these friends um, my my actual brothers and sisters. I know that each one of them came into my life at a certain point in my life to help me with something, to teach me something. And these two brothers are exactly what I needed when I was in Hawaii all those years ago. The reason I bring that up is because I, I've always been in dark places in my life, but those two brothers brought some light. They helped keep me in check many times because there were some things that hey, let's go do this. Let's go do this. And even though they were down to do it, They knew that I was away from home, away from my family, and I needed a good, sound, and sturdy foundation to be on. And even though they humored me at times, when it came to a point where like, this is probably not a good idea, they were courageous enough to say, no, man, let's take a step back. So I thank them, and I thank all my friends who have been very helpful in my journey. In Luke chapter 22, verse 32, it says, when thou art converted, strengthen thy brethren. And I think that has been the model of my life. Is on many occasions I wasn't the strong one, and those are the moments when God introduced some good influences into my life to save me from myself. I hope that I was that friend to other people as well when they needed someone to stand firm in gospel principles, or at least to be a good sounding board, a shoulder to cry on, someone to listen to um, their issues or whatever they were going through, and just marinating it, just sitting there and listening to them. I have found that the moments when my friends needed me most, even my siblings, I was most effective when I didn't say a word and allowed them the opportunity to listen, to say what was on their hearts and on their minds, and just help them through the darkness. So I hope you can be a good friend. Tell me your experiences as well. This all leads me, God and neighbor, friend, family. It all leads me to this point. One of the segments I'd like to talk about is my upbringing in Samoa, and just share with you some experiences that I've had about Samoa. Since moving back permanently in 1990, actually 1989, I've had many opportunities to go back to Samoa. I consider Samoa my home, because it it was Samoa was the refiner's fire for me. I became the man I am today because of my associations in Samoa, my network, my friend groups, and my family in Samoa are what molded me and helped to guide a lot of the decisions that I made in my formative years. So I consider Samoa to be my home. It's not perfect. It definitely is not perfect. But um, there is a part of me that will die in Samoa when I'm gone. Um, and I will bring up Samoa a lot because of how much I love that place and I love my people. But what's happening in Samoa now politically is, for lack of better terms, absurd. I follow Samoan politics as best as I can, and I listen to some of the things that are being said in their parliamentary discussions and think, what the heck is going on? Let me read you this. It's something that we often hear, and we've heard it a lot in these last few years with the upheaval politically that's happened here in the United States. John Emmerich Edward Dahlberg Acton is credited with saying the following: power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. The political climate in Samoa is funny. And we Samoans in general tend to say cutting things, even in jest, but there's always that tint of honesty in it. And what I would say as I follow people having these political discussions, It saddens me sometimes. It makes me laugh sometimes. But it mostly breaks my heart because I know that the people there deserve better. What I'd say to Samoans abroad, especially, is don't let party affiliations, even if they're your family members, perhaps even more since they're your family members, but don't let those affiliations cause you to be nasty online. There are more productive ways to resolve issues politically. In friendships, in relationships in general, there are better ways to resolve them. Show love and grace, kindness, and have an informed opinion. And maybe you do have an informed opinion, but a lot of the things that I've seen online recently on social media is pretty negative. But we deserve better. So be respectful. Don't let your passion blind you from understanding the perspective of another child of God. I think that's what I'm really trying to say is remember that we're all children of God and we're afforded the love and respect of other people. Maybe not the love, but at least the respect. We often say Samoa is founded on the respect. Samoa is built on our respect, our mutual respect for one another. And somewhere along the way, we've started to, or maybe we have been this way for a while. We've started to lose that respect, the decorum for one another. Dr. No Tavana, shout out Dr. Tavana. I've been reading his book recently. Actually, it's sitting right here. It's titled Wangafa'avayo Samoa, right? Core Cultural Values of Samoa. Wonderful read. It's actually broken up into lessons. And I would recommend that everybody, I'm not getting paid for this, by the way, and I don't expect any payment for it. I think that everyone should read it because it reminds us, and anything like this reminds us of who we are as Samoans, what our beliefs, what our belief system is based on, and how we should conduct ourselves when we're having those discussions. And I bring this up because he refers back to leva ferwai, the space between people, relationships between people, and how we should guard, protect, and respect that space between people at all times. And I highly recommend this book. I've been reading it because it helps me understand who I am as a Samoan, who I should be at all times. What I would say to the government of Samoa, if anyone's interested in hearing, is that we're founded on Judeo-Christian beliefs. In fact, the motto in Samoa, I think it's called the motto or slogan, is "Whawai Samoa Matua." Samoa is founded on God, and yet we're finding it hard to be godly with each other. So what I would say to the leaders in Samoa is conduct yourself with dignity and respect in those parliamentary meetings. Because the world is watching. The people are listening. And we all know that the body always follows where the head leads. And if the head goes astray, then the body will as well. So please, let's find better ways to resolve our differences. And don't let everyone knows there's corruption in government, whatever government you go to. But it doesn't have to be that way. If we're founded on God, then use your godly principles to lead the people. Okay, I'm off my soapbox. The last segment, and I'd like to end this with this segment every time I record a new episode. For the time being, I'm going to call it Letters from the Edge. I don't know a better way to say it. Because I think we may be my generation may be the last to have actually experienced writing and placing and posting letters to loved ones, friends, etc. And I am a pro. I was addicted to writing letters because, and I know this to be true, some of the most beautiful prose ever written was written in letters. And I love writing letters because it gives me an opportunity to really think about the things that I'm writing, to really experience the emotions and the things that I'm feeling when I write letters. Many times, I would be in the middle of a letter, 3 or 4 pages long at that point, and decide, no, this isn't the tone I want to use, and this isn't what I want to write out. This is not what I want them to experience. So I believe that whether it was anger, sadness, almost always love. I look back on my life now, and I actually have a tote that is full of letters that I received from um, my brothers, my sisters, my parents, obviously, from dear friends and loved ones who sent me letters when I was away from home, whether I was serving my mission for the church or I had just left Samoa and my entire family there. So I received a lot of letters during those years. And some of the things that were written in those letters are absolutely amazing. And I remember I was just reading a letter from my mom and she was chastising me for like 6 pages. She was basically yelling at me from the pages of that letter. And I will cherish that for the rest of my life. So I'm titling this for the time being, Letters from the Edge. And you think about that, the edge. Um, when you think about the edge, has dual meaning. You think about the edge, you're moving farther and farther away from the center of things, or the edge of a sword, sharp, it's cutting, and you might be feeling some different emotions when you write from the edge. I anticipate, and I've done this with my parents and with others, there may be times when you feel regret that you didn't get to say the things that are in your heart when that loved one passes, whether it's suddenly or, and I wrote many letters to my mother when she passed the year that Jen and I were married, and still have those letters in journal form. And I refer back to those and try to experience what I was feeling in those moments and the regret that I had that I didn't say certain things. And I know in my heart that she's heard those things because I've read them out aloud. I've read them out loud. And if you are a person who is living with some of those regrets, things that you wish that you had said, and I think this is another part of being on the edge is on the edge of the veil between here and there. I know there's another life beyond this one. They can hear your pleas for strength and power. So write them down. Or if there's a letter that you would like to share to someone that you love or someone that you cherish, send them in. I'd love to read those and to the audience. And today I'm going to read a letter that I recently wrote to my wife as an example of some things that I'd like to share at the end of every episode. And my hope is that you will feel prompted to share some of the things that are in your heart, and you can remain anonymous. I don't need to know your name, but I'd like to hear, and I'd like for this to be a forum where you can share those things with someone that you love, maybe even someone you hate. I want to be positive though. But whatever it is you're feeling, write them down and send them to me. I'll give you an email address here in a moment. Letters from the Edge. This one's dated January 8th or 8 January 2025. Dearest love, Jan, I can't recall the last time I wrote you a letter. My stubbornness from our past prevented me from seeing the cleansing nature and power of writing the beautiful things that are revealed through our hearts and that can only be communicated through the written word. I'm so sorry that I've denied you the right to know my thoughts and my feelings all these years through my letters. I hope you'll forgive me. We've had a blessed life these past 10 years. The struggles haven't disappeared. They're just slightly easier to resolve because of our narrower focus on God and trying our best to act in faith as we listen to and wait for His will to be clearer in our hearts and minds. Being obedient and following His will for us has made all the difference in our lives, hasn't it? Time and your faith have taught me. I no longer ask, what should I do? I've gotten much better at asking, what is thy will? Age and experience have taught us well, and I thank you for always leading with God. Last night, as we sat in the presence of those stalwart men of God and listened to each of them testify of priesthood keys in their own unique way. By the way, I wrote this letter right after we had been interviewed to be released from our calling as bishop and advisor in the Young Single Adult Ward. Last night, as we sat in the presence of those stalwart men of God and listened to each of them testify of priesthood keys in their own unique way, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for you. The work of a bishop is difficult, but it would have been 10 times more challenging without your love, support, and devotion to the Savior. You are truly a cherished and treasured helpmeet to me, and a beloved daughter of our Heavenly Father. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for your sacrifices. Thank you for being lovable and sociable. Thank you for your testimony. Thank you for being the backbone of our family. Thank you for notable and often unspoken sacrifices. Thank you for loving me all these long 31 plus years when I know you could have walked away. Thank you for being my rock. I love you, Jen. I can't wait to see what this new year brings, and I'm grateful to be spending it with you. Always, Seti. Wow, I hope that helps somebody out. I know it helped me to just sit down and write those words to my beautiful wife. And again, if you feel prompted to or feel pushed to write a letter, I do have an email address. Please send it to, second here, let me bring it up for you. Send your letters to TheEdgeLetters@gmail.com. That's TheEdgeLetters@gmail.com. I'll try to put that in the comments below as well. Anyway, once again, shout out to my nephews, Venu and Bobby Massina, for allowing me to use their music on my channel. Also, shout out to my son Kingston, who will be editing this video and posting it for me on YouTube. And thank you for listening. If you would, please subscribe, like, share it with your friends and family. And if you can, leave me a comment. Tell me how I'm doing. I'm hoping that I can post at least one of these every week. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on the things that I've shared today. And I'm hoping that I can get better at doing this. But I've loved this moment. It's still a little awkward, but I'll get better. Enjoy your week, and remember that Christ is King. He loves us. And I look forward to the next one. Thank you.